Thank you. Thank you for staying in such a nice day. I have about 15 minutes to do something I really wanted to do because we've been very active in Germany recently, forensic architecture, and kind of like chaotically bouncing between different registers and kind of touching upon different institutions, from undertaking investigation into racist policing to working closely with the German media to starting an investigation about the German genocide in Namibia and other things. And these weeks have been incredibly chaotic and confusing, and I just want to make an order somehow in my head in kind of thinking with you through those. So I think we've got this sort of like, can I have the, okay, yeah. What we've recently learned in Germany, the meaning really is very much in recent weeks. But I want to start with the end. And I cannot have this event, the exposure that took place in Germany in the last few days just uncommented. So I'd like to have the next slide, please, with a picture of the mural in Kassel of the artist collective Taring Paddy. I am controlling. Oh, okay. I thought it's like, yeah, here it is. As you know, it was drawn as part of a campaign against militarism and violence of the US, or Western-supported Suharto regime. It purportedly depicts military figures, corrupt bureaucrats, and violent military generals. But it also has two figures, those that I've extracted and then masked in this presentation. The one on the left is a pig wearing a Star of David, and the one on the right is an Orthodox Jew depicted as a demon. Of course, to see Jews as devils leading the forces of evil is offensive to me personally, but I think it also points to a deeper failure, and it is these failures I'd like to speak about. That such images went on circulating like memes and conspiracy theories in a wider world, and whatever trajectory they've taken from and through the world in order to return here to Germany requires us to pause and think for a second about what may exist within an anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist kind of circles, the circles that I think, broadly speaking, many of us are identifying with, and this kind of proximities. And I think beyond the offense and beyond the sense of betrayal that myself and many other people in the human rights community, people that in the last 6 to 8 months were working relentlessly to defend Documenta against precisely these accusations. Beyond that sense of betrayal and offense, I think it points to certain epistemic failure. I think that it points to a certain inability, and whether it is in the art and cultural sector, it doesn't matter, because whenever one engages history or politics or activism, one needs to undertake an analysis. One needs to undertake an analysis that rests on differentiation and on distinctions. And I think that those type of representations of Jews appear precisely when abstract, immaterial processes can't be grasped. When we fail to understand the ghost of that anti-Semitic image of a Jew starts to crystallize. And it's always there. It appears, sometimes invisible, sometimes it gains flesh, appearing and disappearing, and directly related to the inability, to the unwillingness to undertake political analysis within activism. And that's what results. I think that anti-Semitism is an attempt to give shape and personify the mysterious, the intangible, the abstract, the universal, to give a shape, a kind of to fetishize in an image that which is too complex to understand and describe. And the refusal to engage in economic and political analysis requires and brings that fetish again and again and again. So perhaps a response is a careful reading and a careful understanding and the making of distinction whenever we, in fields like here, are engaging in political art, in political activism through the aesthetic domain. It also points to a failure of the imagination. And I have to say, I've been throughout this exhibition and I see a big difference than what I read about or hear about that is happening in Documenta. I think there's a careful contextualization and pausing that is going on here. So in no way I'm speaking about this particular exhibition. So the failure of imagination on the side of artists and curators, they do not have the visual literacy. And this is what we demand of them. We demand from curators to have the visual literacy and to know where images come from and what they signify, and actually filter and allow us to contextualize or take those images out of circulation, because the damage that they create is immeasurable and the risk is immediate of those mistakes. Because what is happening right now, and the problem that we are in, is a validation of the attacks that were ongoing in recent months against those defending Palestinian rights. And within that, and into that horrible system of representation, it's becoming like a black hole that starts sucking everything in. And I think that we need to stay guard, and we need to insist on distinction. There's been discursive and physical attacks, there have been death threats, there's been physical vandalism resulting from those verbal attacks in the media on the spaces where our colleagues, where our friends, where people that we in forensic architecture work very closely with, where these people are exhibiting. So that failure of Documenta is an abandonment of these people. And this is what matters. It has created two vulnerabilities. Through the vulnerability and the hurt that they've produced to the Jewish community, is a broad term, it's not only community, but Jewish persons here, they've created a vulnerability to the Palestinians that are ongoing facing racist attacks in this country. And I'm very wary, and I'm very worried about this moment. I'm very worried about what is going to happen and what this thing is enabling if we do not insist on distinction and we do not read where things start and where things end. And when I see a parade of German politicians going into their comfort zone, almost insisting that anti-Semitism is an imported problem to Germany. It's something that comes from the outside. Of course, as a boomerang, it was sent out, circulating, and now kind of landing back here. But as if things here have been dealt with, as if German racism is something of the past and simply exposed to those points of import. And the safe space is to block everything to do with Israel. and to insist that this cannot be spoken about, and it create a kind of a firewall of protection that does not protect Jewish persons like myself, and that do not understand that the Palestinian vulnerability here in Germany is intrinsically linked with Jewish vulnerability here. That these issues are completely entangled, one within the other. Maybe issues like this, where a person we have worked with closely, Mohammed al-Kurd, whose house in Jerusalem has been invaded by a settler. The house of his family, a settler moved in and started living in that house. Call that out. And the Goethe Institute, one of the major central institutions in this country, disinvites him from here. That makes me vulnerable in this country, because we work together with al-Kurd, together for human rights and, to a certain extent, liberation of Palestinians from those. And also works that we've recently done here. And I've read with great interest an essay by Hito Steyer, who insisted that the work of decolonization, or post-colonial work as it's sometimes called, must start here. And I completely understand that. In forensic architecture, 2 weeks ago, or less even, we opened an exhibition in Frankfurt at the Frankfurt Kunstverein, which is an investigation we've done together with the families and victims of, or surviving victims of the February 19 terrorist attack in Hanau, showing police failures, showing the German police the way they operate, over-policing migrant communities, but under-protecting them. Whereas on the other side, when it comes to pursuing and defending Nazis, we're not speaking about even, Nazis of the past. Nazis that here operate and murder people are being let go, are not being effectively pursued. And a lot of the investigation was about the structural police failures in doing that. It's an investigation that was coordinated by Bob Trafford and Dimitra Andristu from our team. Showing the house of the perpetrator as a site of intergenerational racism in Germany. The perpetrator ran home, murdered his mother, his father is Nazi like him, survived the attack, showing his potential involvement in those crimes. Then we do what we do: careful, detailed analysis, evidence-based analysis on those issues, and attempt to intervene in that discourse, and obviously together with the communities. So when I read things like that in Germany, from German reporters saying, if you want to find out if there is anti-Semitism in contemporary art, take a look at actors like, crossed out, a person I really love and a very close friend of mine, and forensic architecture. You cannot imagine the offense that has created and the damage that this brings to potential solidarity and common struggle between Palestinian and Jews that feel and work for Palestine liberation. This is a knife in the back, something like that. And you want to say to Germany sometimes, stay out of a very fragile, very complex relationship that we are trying to build slowly, gaining confidence between Palestinians and Jews and Jewish Israelis like me. When we undertake analysis, and this is a beginning of, how to play the video? Never mind, never mind. Imagine this is the beginning of work that we do on the Herero claims against the German state for the 1904, for the genocide that began in 1904. Genocide that is now recognized morally, but not legally, and effectively reparations are denied. It's a very careful work that we are trying to do. We were building it up to show it in... Oh, really? Okay. We'll just have it play. It's an investigation that is coordinated by Imani Jacqueline Brown, who also shows here in the Biennale, and Agata Nguyen Chao. And it is really about an attempt to build stolen photographs, colonial photographs that were taken without the permission of the people of Namibia, the Nama and Hereros, in colonial times, trying to build them back into the social and physical landscape of this country. This work requires there's a lot of work there. And I feel, as a beneficiary of reparation myself, my family has received some measure of reparations after the Holocaust, that bond between us and the Ovo Herero and that claim is meaningful for both sides in that struggle. And that work was supposed to be financed, as forensic architecture works are, through different grants, but also through the art world. And particularly an institution in Germany who has written us the following email. It's a very nice email. I've been observing the stunning work of forensic architecture for some time now. This was in 21st of June last year. We'd be very interested in showing a solo exhibition of forensic architecture. I'm very much looking forward to hearing, to which we started the discussion that lead to investigation. October, this is 3 months later. I'm not showing the entire email. As we know now, the situation regarding BDS, I'm a BDS supporter. I accept that BDS is a framework for a joint struggle. And I abide by that. I do not participate with Israeli state institutions because there is no way for us to build solidarity with Palestinians while working with Israeli institutions. And that is something that is... Sorry, do you want me to finish?
Yeah, you have 2 minutes left.
Okay, all right. But we've been advised against it for security reasons. So they would like to postpone the exhibition, to which I responded, security reason? I'm working here, I don't know. Can you tell me what is the security reason? We have office here, I have my family here in a city in Germany. And this is the response. Security reason is perhaps the wrong word. Massive guns would be brought up, which are directed against our well-being and person, and could ultimately cost me my job. We first must arm ourselves against it. So look at the threat, look at the imagery, that the fight against anti-Semitism, what they imagine that would happen to them if they, the power that is conjured in that image, the threat and the fear of a museum director in Germany, of what would happen to them. I feel that to write something like that and to say that you're fighting anti-Semitism, where this email is completely saturated by all those fears, is exactly that kind of dead-end point that we are in. I will have to end now, though yes. I have some more, but I could continue that later. Thank you very much.